In today's Florida man case, Florida man claims he broke into a house to hide from a ghost. Okay, so we broke into a house to escape an ethereal entity. Unclear why he thought the ghost wouldn't be able to enter the house. So this defense would be what we would consider private necessity, would be the basic underlying legal theory about why we did this. Okay, I technically broke into your house, or I technically stole your car, or I technically did these other things. But I had legal necessity. I did the thing because I was trying to escape some horror, and this was the necessary method for me to escape the horror. So I guess we're going for a legal necessity defense. I broke into your house, yes, but it was legally necessary. Why? Ghost. Okay, let's see if we can make this legal necessity defense work. Let's get started with this. Florida man Andrew George over here is jailed for allegedly breaking into a home because he claimed ghost. George over here was booked last week for 2 counts of burglary, which again, technically legally is when you break into a home in order to commit a crime therein. So if all he did was break into the home to escape the ghost, then that would just be criminal trespass, but we think maybe he entered for some other reason. So if ghost, he's not guilty of burglary. So if ghost, he's not guilty of burglary. What were his true intentions, though? According to the arrest report, dispatchers were called to the home for what they said was a shooting, but turned out to be a burglary, or so they say. When officers arrived, they found the man, later identified as George, laying down on his back in front of the steps of the home, covered in blood and crying out in pain. His accomplice was standing out on top of him. So things are not going great as it relates to the ghost. We're having some problems. After speaking with the individuals involved, police say they had purchased a room at a nearby travel inn. They were in the room for about 30 minutes when they claimed they heard a window opening and thought someone was trying to break into their room. Okay. The two allegedly ran out of the room and demanded a refund from the motel manager, arguing for several minutes. They were in fact refunded, so okay. But moments later, they observed a shadow behind them. Think it was the person who was breaking into the room. The two ran across the street in an attempt to hide from the shadow. Okay. I'm curious at this point whether some sort of pharmaceuticals of some point may be involved. But you know, there might be some evidence that they actually thought they were trying to escape some entity. So that burglary count is looking a little bit shaky. And our private necessity defense, well, that's not going great, but you know, hey, it's something. The duo claimed they ran into a 7-Eleven and asked for help, then ran towards Halifax. George kept running around the parking lot due to a ghost chasing him. He told officers he was scared of the ghost and scared the ghost was going to harm him. So he jumped into water to hide from the ghost. Apparently, his friend thought he fell into the water, so apparently helped him out, and then the two ran across the street. Still feeling they were being chased by the ghost, he approached a few homes and banged on the front doors, screaming for help. He allegedly said at one point they grabbed a chair and smashed it through a window, then punched open a different window. The people inside, for their part, of course, called 911 and threatened to stab him with a kitchen knife if he didn't leave. Which, you know, fair enough. You have had a person come into your home, you know, who is clearly not acting right. So your self-defense is looking pretty good, right? His legal defense for this is not burglary / it isn't illegal at all is separate and apart, of course, from the self-defense argument. So we have to switch our frames of reference, right? So even if we somehow conclude that this isn't illegal on George's part, the homeowner's ability to use self-defense goes to their perspective, and obviously their perspective is, yeah. George allegedly told officers he couldn't get into the home due to God telling him the female was a bad person to hang out with. Okay. The suspect also told officers he heard children's voices and didn't want to scare a child. So he didn't enter the home? So even trespass is looking a little bit shaky now. Okay. George admitted to taking Molly, known as ecstasy, and that's why he believed God was not protecting him from making bad choices. George's arraignment is scheduled for July the 18th at 8:30 a.m. Okay. Thus, that brings us to the end of this story about the Florida man who broke in to see a ghost. And legally, things are more interesting than you might expect. All right, first of all, burglary is a specific intent crime because it requires you to have the specific intent to do a thing, namely to commit the felony therein. So unclear that we broke in with intent to commit a crime therein. Also, he was high on drugs at the time. Now, being high on drugs will not help you in a general intent crime, right? But it will help you in a specific intent crime. So I was high on drugs actually will legally work as a valid defense to the burglary. So it's also not clear what happened in relation to the home. So that he had the intent to commit a crime therein, not clear. Even assuming that he had the intent to crime therein, he was high on drugs and couldn't legally form the intent. Is a valid defense because it's a specific intent crime. So that's fun. Also, he has the makings of a private necessity defense because he thought he was trying to escape a ghost. So I broke into the home because I tried everything else, guys. I tried everything else. I tried, leaving the motel. I tried going to the 7-Eleven. I tried jumping into the water. I tried other steps before breaking into the home. And it was my last resort. I broke into the home, private necessity. This is fun. So we could try that and see how that works. So first of all, I don't think this is burglary legally. So I would absolutely 100%, as his criminal defense lawyer, say this is not burglary. It's not. As to the trespassing offense, I think about making my private necessity defense and see how far that goes me. I'd probably be laughed out of court, but it'd be fun as I tried and see how that goes. And so also for the friend, one of them didn't enter the building. So how are we charging the friend? Because what are we charging them with? Conspiracy? Accessory? None of that's even clear. So as to the other friend who didn't enter the building at all, I think there's no legal liability there. Because, we're just trying to help a friend in need. The fact that our friend is crazy out of his mind, if we didn't enter the building, I'm not sure we did anything illegal. So friend probably should get off scot-free. This guy, his charges need to be reduced at bare minimum. And that brings us to the end of discussion of this case.